Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you all. And just checking our time here. We want to give enough time for people to get in, but we also want to be mindful of time too. This is a lunch hour, or depending on your time zone, could be a breakfast kind of a discussion. So we are trying to make sure we're mindful of your time and that we've given you all a chance to have questions and discussion too. So we're going to go ahead and get started and let others catch up, but just wanted to introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know me. My name is Carrie Miller. I'm the Vice President here of Advancement. Really pleased that the Advancement team has been able to share some insights with you by bringing along some really great faculty members for discussion. So just a reminder to mute your mics and during the discussion period, and then we will have plenty of opportunity for questions. So if you want to put a question in the chat or raise your hand, Dr. Pat Downey will be moderating a Q&A at the end of the short presentation, but just feel free to interact that way and just put in whatever way you feel comfortable with your questions. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Downey.
Thanks, Carrie. So I would like to welcome everyone. It's great to have you join us this afternoon. I'm really excited about the presentation, and I have the honor of introducing two of my faculty and two of my leadership team within the School of Health Sciences. So let me start by introducing Dr. Mary Jo Loughran. Dr. Loughran joined the university in about 16 years ago in 2005, and she now is a full professor, and she is the program director of graduate psychology. Under the guidance of Chatham College alum, Dr. Nancy Ellman, who's from the class of 1962, Dr. Loughran completed her PhD in counseling psychology at the University of Pittsburgh, including her doctoral internship at the University of Akron's Counseling and Testing Center. Her clinical services career spans the better part of 3 decades, including 15 years working with collegiate student athletes in a university counseling center and in a private practice. And I'd also like to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Deanna Hamilton. She also has a very long-standing history at Chatham, having joined the psychology faculty in 2006. And she is the coordinator of the master's programs in graduate psychology. Dr. Hamilton completed her PhD in clinical developmental psychology at Bryn Mawr. Her academic areas of interest include positive psychology, which I think you will see an example of that today, and psychological well-being. She also received the prestigious Chatham University Buell Professorship Award in 2019. So I could go on about the two of them for a long time, but for the sake of time, I'm going to turn it over to them and ask them to go ahead and start their presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Downey. I am Mary Jo Loughran, and it is a delight to be here. Thank you for sharing your time with us. We are excited to showcase our programs and to highlight some innovative ways that our faculty and students are impacting our community.
And just want to say it was the real challenge today was not talking about our programs because we're both so excited about them. The real challenge was to try and keep this presentation brief because we could so proud and enthusiastic about our program and our faculty and our students that we could go on and on. So Chatham introduced graduate training in psychology in 1999, concurrent with Pennsylvania's decision to license master's level practitioners. The program launched with 4 faculty members and 6 students in its first year.
One of those faculty members, Dr. Tony Gorezhny, is still with us and heads the Independent Monitoring for Quality IM4Q project that you may have heard about. This project promotes quality of life among individuals with disabilities throughout Western Pennsylvania.
And if you can see on our timeline, in 2009, we launched our PsyD program, our doctoral program in counseling psychology, which kind of built on the success of our master's level MSCP program.
Our doctoral program received American Psychological Association's, that's APA, accreditation in 2013. And our master's program, the MSCP program, as it's referred to, received its accreditation, which is Master's in Counseling and Psychology Accreditation Council, MPCAC, a mouthful. We received that accreditation in 2017. Currently, we offer 3 degrees. A 60-credit Master of Science in Counseling Psychology, which has 901 alumni. The PsyD in Counseling Psychology, which has 54 alumni. And we also offer a 36-credit non-clinical Master of Arts degree in psychology. That degree has 200 alumni.
And the MA degree is really ideal for students who are interested in pursuing doctoral study. It provides a kind of foundation in psychology for them to then go into doctoral study. Or for people who are interested in psychology-related career paths, such as research or community advocacy. And in fact, Marita Garrett, the mayor of Wilkinsburg, holds an MA degree from Chatham.
Our full-time faculty consists of 12 dedicated, gifted classroom educators who are also caring advisors and productive scholars.
One of the most, I think, exciting and wonderful aspects of our program is that the research agendas of our faculty cover a wide and diverse array of topics and applications.
In fact, this slide contains the citations of the publications and professional presentations from our faculty during the last year and a half. And if you were able to look closely at this slide, you would notice that the vast majority of these works have students and alumni as co-authors.
Our PsyD program is unique in that we require a traditional dissertation, an empirically based dissertation. So at any time, there are easily dozens of projects in process. And these projects are usually being conducted by research teams. And these teams consist of a mix of faculty, doctoral students, and master's students.
Some other unique features of our PsyD program is that we are housed in a School of Health Sciences, which I think positions us very nicely, and we'll talk about that in just a little while. But as a result of our foundation of blending science with practice, we graduate clinicians whose future practice will be informed by their knowledge and experience with the scientific base of psychology. Another strength of our program is the clinical training that they receive from our community partners throughout the region.
We have affiliation agreements with over 120 different agencies in and around the city. So our students really have the opportunity to gain experience working in a vast array of settings with a diverse range of populations and presenting concerns.
And in addition to these regional training partnerships, our PsyD program requires a year of full-time capstone clinical practice training in a variety of settings all across the country.
Our students have successfully matched at internships in university counseling centers, hospitals, VA medical centers, and the US military in settings as close as Pittsburgh, as far away as Alaska, California, and Florida.
So to return to our timeline, in recent years, our programs have developed 2 particular areas of focus and strength that we'd like to share with you. In 2017, we were awarded a $1.9 million HRSA grant, a federal grant to support training of our students to work in integrated healthcare settings.
And in 2018, we forged a unique partnership with Student Affairs at Chatham, including the initiation of the Success Coaching Program and the naming of one of our faculty as Chatham's Executive Director of Counseling and Wellness.
And that person is Dr. Jen Morse. This is Jen, who was is the principal investigator of the HRSA grant, which is called the WELL Project. Over a 4-year period, 10 students, doctoral students per year, received financial support to train in integrated care settings, such as primary health care settings, specialty medical care units, where they learn to bring a psychological perspective to the integrated healthcare team.
Pictured here with Dr. Morse is Luke Collier. Luke completed his WELL Fellowship working with the Mercy Hospital's clinic, providing medical and psychological care to homeless or housing in individuals facing housing instability.
Luke is also currently finishing his internship at the Ohio State University Counseling Center.
This is USID alum, Dr. Alina Vaslieb. While training at Children's Hospital in the kidney transplant unit, Alina became curious about whether there might be a connection between psychosocial variables and transplant success. That curiosity informed her work using a large database that was available to her to explore these relationships for her dissertation.
Dr. Vaslieb completed her doctoral internship in the Cleveland Clinic and is currently completing a postdoctoral fellowship in the pediatrics department, also at the Cleveland Clinic.
Not forwarding for some reason. There we go.
There we go. So here's a picture of our success coaches. As we mentioned, that is part of the other area of specialization, our partnership with Student Affairs.
Each of these success coaches is matched with a group of undergraduate Chatham students whom they follow for the first 2 years of undergraduate study. Their job is to provide support to the students in the key areas of college experiences to enable them to succeed academically, but also socially, emotionally, athletically, in kind of all aspects of their college experience.
The program has had a positive impact upon undergraduate student retention, but I want to tell you about the impact that it's had on our programs. This program has provided our students with excellent applied experience, as well as critically needed financial assistance to help them pay for their doctoral study. As a result, we have experienced an increase in applications to our programs from applicants and current students who are strong, mature, and motivated. And before you forward that slide, just take a look at, in the second row on the left is the person we're going to be talking about next.
So that student is a current PsyD student, Alex Olson. Alex spent her first 2 years of our program as a success coach and is currently completing her 3rd year as a WELL Fellow. Alex's passion and career goal is to work with underserved communities, including refugees. Alex volunteered one summer using her fluency in Spanish to work at the Texas-Mexico border, providing support to detained immigrants. She subsequently came back to Pittsburgh and worked in a summer camp here in the Pittsburgh area for refugee children and completed her dissertation in a study of the camp counselors' psychological well-being.
And to the next chapter of Alex's story is that she has just learned that she will spend next year doing her doctoral internship in an integrated care setting at the University of New Mexico's Health Center, where she will continue to develop expertise in work with underserved populations. So we have several exciting projects on our horizon. As the WELL project comes to its conclusion, we have submitted a proposal currently under review for another HRSA grant. This one is related. It's called the Healthcare Alliance for the Promotion of Pittsburgh Youth, or the HAPPY project. If it's funded, the HAPPY project will build upon the WELL project and will expand to include not just our doctoral students, but also our master's students. And it will have a particular focus on serving children, adolescents, and emerging adults. Dr. Hamilton, along with Dr. Jen Morse, it will be the co-principal investigators for this project.
We are also hoping to expand our partnership with Student Affairs to create a doctoral internship on campus, really aimed at addressing the mental health epidemic that's happening for adolescents and emerging adults, particularly in this post-pandemic world. Similar to the Success Coaching Program, a doctoral internship would benefit the Chatham community by expanding the provision of counseling and wellness care on campus, while at the same time benefiting graduate psychology by increasing the potential for students to complete the doctoral internship without having to leave Pittsburgh, which would benefit some students, particularly our students who are established in the city with outside responsibilities, such as taking care of children or elderly parents or family care responsibilities that make moving elsewhere challenging.
And then finally, we are planning to expand our program offerings to include an online asynchronous master's degree. Similar to our brick and mortar MA degree, this program would prepare students to pursue doctoral study or for careers in non-clinical psychological settings, but would also have the added convenience of to students of being entirely asynchronous. This has been a snapshot of who we are, what we do, where we've been, and where we hope to go. We hope that we conveyed the vibrancy of graduate psychology at Chatham. We'd be happy to take your questions and comments.
Thank you both for that great presentation. I'm not embarrassed to say I learned some things in this presentation, so I appreciate it very much. So if you want to use the chat function, I see we've already got people that have started that way, or if you want to do the raise your hand function and then unmute and we'll call on you. But I'm going to jump into the chat because Laura Fisher put a question in there that you guys have already answered in some ways, but you can probably expound upon it a little bit. Given the great shortage of professionals in the field and the growing need, how do you think we can attract more people into this profession?
Well, I can take a stab, and Deanna, if you want to jump in. I heard a wonderful sort of way of summing up how I approach graduate training in psychology, which is create a space where people want to come. And I think we do that with all of the work that we do, that we've taught. I hope we've managed to share with you. In terms of how we can attract more people into the field, I do believe that as this pandemic eases and as people begin to return to their some semblance of a new normality, there will be an increased recognition that that healthcare has to include mind, body, and spirit. Interestingly, over the last year, we have had a very nice jump in the number of students who are interested in coming to our program. So I think that there is I think that's already happening organically.
Thanks. This next question from David Feingold, I have a feeling it's directed toward Deanna. Could you explain the role of Harry Potter in the teaching of psychology?
I can. So I will specifically say that, gosh, 10 years ago at this point, I did an undergraduate Maymester course back when we had Maymester that was on the psychology of Harry Potter. And we really used the texts as kind of concrete examples of how to think about particularly adolescent development, but how to think about concepts like resilience, or how do we think about the importance of friendship, or what's going on in terms of identity development when these characters are sort of being sorted into their house. And so I think there are lots of ways that we can conceptually make those connections. And I think sort of more to speak more to our program, one of the things that we do really, really well because of how diverse our faculty are in terms of our interests and what we can give students is when I talk to students, like if you're interested in thinking about identity development and positive psychology and Harry Potter and adolescence, we have someone who can think through that with you. And if you're interested in thinking about how group therapy processes work at an international kind of level, we have a faculty member who has that expertise. And so yeah, I just think it's one of that slide that had all of our publications and presentations, I think so nicely kind of captures. It blows my mind to be part of this group of people. That was a year and a half worth, just a year and a half during a pandemic. And that was the productivity and dissemination. So anyway, some of that was Harry Potter related and some of it wasn't.
The next question comes from Diane Peterson, and she has a long history in healthcare. So she has a well-informed question here. Have internships declined during the pandemic? Does this limit the number of students?
That's a great question. Let me say first that I think in large part, thanks to Dean Downey, when the pandemic hit and when we looked at what was coming, we got into gear quickly we have a field placement coordinator, Dr. Gina Zanardelli, who got on the phone and reached out to every single one of those 120 sites to really get a sense of what was coming and what were sites doing and how could our students continue to make progress toward their degree. It would be accurate to say that it has slowed some of our students down, particularly at sites that really counted on and really didn't have the ability to move toward a telehealth kind of format. However, I have to say we have not lost a single student yet. Every one of our students has managed to make some sort of adaptation. Dr. Zanardelli has worked tirelessly to develop new sites and to find new ways for students to get the hours and the experience that they need. In addition to that, in part due to the WELL project and the funding that came along with that, we were able to provide our students with training in how to do competent telehealth care, so that I can't say that it was a seamless transition. And in some ways, we're still spending a lot of time and energy on that issue. But I believe that telehealth is here to stay, particularly related to mental health care. And so what we've been telling our students is that they are going to be ahead of the curve when they get out there, and hopefully we'll have a nice combination of face-to-face, on-the-ground training, but with the ability to provide good, competent telehealth care as well.
So David Feingold has a question. You referenced the explosion in mental health issues that we're seeing for teenagers and young adults in the US. Can you comment on the causes of this and how the Counseling Center and Success Coach model is helping to address?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to acknowledge that the causes are, of course, complicated and are going to be really varied according to, different adolescents and young adults and their particular contexts and experiences. But I think before the pandemic, one of the connections that I was seeing in the literature related specifically to the increasing rates of suicide, right? So despite like great attempts at awareness and prevention and lots of programming, those rates have continued to climb. And one of the kind of underlying factors that was emerging was loneliness and feelings of loneliness despite increased online connections and communities. And so I think like that was a factor, seeming to be a driving factor before the pandemic. Then we add that into the mix and that feeling of loneliness just exponentially increased. So I think there's the loneliness piece. And then I also think, particularly when we're talking about adolescents and emerging adults and the goal, right, the developmental task of identity exploration and formation and questioning and having sort of room to sort of explore that, psychological room, physical, all of those experiences have been kind of truncated in a way that adolescents don't know what to do with, emerging adults don't know how to do, and we don't know really from a mental health perspective how to exactly address that. So I think in terms of what we can do, looking for any opportunities and something that Chatham, I have to say, and part of this is because I know Dr. Morse and her efforts to increase opportunities for connection, right? Anything that we can do to make students aware of and feel like there are opportunities for community and connection. And sometimes that's having, access to peer support via online mechanisms where they can receive that kind of peer support and consultation. And sometimes it's normalizing, right? That this is something that everyone's struggling with and providing extra opportunities for coming together, again, whether those are virtual or finding safe ways to do it in person. I think that's really things that we can do and keep doing, because like I said, I think our community, our counseling center, our student affairs have done an amazing job.
And I would just add to that a couple of things. The first thing is that what the success coaches are able to do is to really keep an eye on and check in with students who may look like they're doing just great on the surface, but who may be experiencing that sense of loneliness and disconnection. And by having that built into the system, they are able to get them, identify problems or potential for problems earlier. And then, one of the catch-22s that happens is that as we educate our students about, all of these pieces that we've been talking about, we're sort of the natural byproduct is going to be an increase in the need for services, because as mental health care becomes destigmatized, students will recognize and will need to, or will express their need more frequently. So that's part of our desire to build the internship, is to be able to expand the ability for us on campus to reach out and increase our ability to get in there and serve students more quickly and more efficiently.
Thanks.
Good point. Every clinician around Pittsburgh I know right now who works with children and adolescents is busting at the seams in terms of there being an increased need for those people who can provide those services.
So I don't see any other questions in the chat. So I would encourage, if anybody does have any more questions, to just, unmute, and we're a small enough group, unmute and just jump in. Diane?
On the other end of that age spectrum, what about the geriatric counseling? It looks like there would be a lot of opportunity in nursing homes right now with the horrible isolation of the past year and those patients. Do you do anything with the geriatric group?
We actually do. Some of our partnerships actually are with in facilities. We have in hospice care. We have placements across the full age of the human spectrum.
Pat, do you want to comment on the Vincentian partnership, which goes beyond counseling psych, but is an innovative one?
Yeah,
absolutely. For those of you that are in Pittsburgh, you may be familiar with Vincentian Healthcare. They are a large for a local group. They're not a national company, but they specialize in senior care in both assisted living and independent living, and actually the full spectrum. And so they had approached us a little over a year ago, and we've had a relationship with them for a number of years, primarily with physical therapy and occupational therapy being placed in their facilities. But they wanted to, they took over a large facility in the Oakland area of Pittsburgh. And it was a facility that had really, its reputation was not great. And Vincentian has a wonderful reputation. They've taken it over, done a lot of renovation. And they dedicated a wing to renovate for Chatham Health Science students to live there. And they've got room for, depending on shared spaces, up to about 28 or 30 students. And they have parking. And because of the pandemic, we were a little slow in getting this rolled out, but we had about 7-8 students there this past year. They represented 5 different programs in the health sciences. And the goal is that they would do planned interaction. So depending on the background of the student, they may be doing some things around isolation and prevention of depression and things like that. They might be doing prevention of falls and balance activities and that type of thing. And they're also encouraged to eat in the dining room and, just sit down at tables with folks and strike up conversations in an informal way too. So we're really looking forward to that growing as folks are getting vaccinated and people are feeling much more comfortable doing in-person kinds of things. Thanks, David.
Just to mention 2 other things with that in mind. So one of the core principles behind the eco-village that we're developing out at Eden Hall is this notion of multi-generational housing. And so creating an environment where folks who are ready to downsize, but have no desire to be in a place where they're only with other people their age, would have a chance to be on a thriving university campus and interact and engage in the activities of the campus. And we've even put in a grant for that. Mary Jo referenced the work of Tony Gorchesny, who has been a leader in the state in working with individuals with developmental disability. Well, he's pointed us to a national issue we're facing, which is that now as people are living longer, what we're seeing is parents who are ready to retire or are worried about what happens to them when they're gone, and then their adult children and what will happen. And so we put in a grant so that 2 of the units might be used for 2 generations of a family, and they would be part of this co-housing community where they would be supported, have opportunities to work on the campus and other things. And then the other thing that we're looking at, because before COVID, we were at nearly 100% occupancy for all of our housing. There's a group called Nesterly, which is started in Boston and has opened a second site in Columbus with Ohio State, where they have seniors in the community who have this issue around isolation, and they host college students to live. So it helps them to stay independent, have companionship, people who can help with shopping or cooking or other things. The students, it addresses the issue of college affordability for students. And then the seniors have help in the home and to stay living independent. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to make Pittsburgh the next site they come to. So I really think, particularly with the demographics of our area, that this is a huge area, Diane, for us to focus.
So we do have time for another 1 or 2 questions if anyone has anything else. Murray?
Yeah, I have a question. With the seemingly big increase in these conspiracy theories and all these people are being sucked into groups like QAnon, is there any thought being given how to rescue these people?
Truthfully, not yet.
Right. Okay.
Not yet, but Deanna, you look like you've got something.
Well, I agree, not yet. I was thinking, in our program and with our students, the issue of science and what is science and the importance of science to psychology and what do facts mean and what do they look like and where do they find them and all of those sorts of questions is something that I think we wrestle with in every single class in our curriculum. And so I would just say, like, in terms of our program and in the way that we sort of educate and think with our students, that's one thing that we do. And then the other thing that I was just thinking about is from a treatment standpoint, really, Mary Jo, you'd be able to speak to this, but working with our students on what is it like to provide treatment, right? To be in therapy, to be in sessions with clients who have a very different take on science or political beliefs or values and how to kind of hang on to all of that and still do the very best to serve the clients in an ethically and, a kind of goal-oriented and growth-promoted kind of way. And it's I think one of the greatest challenges of our time in terms of psychology. How do we hold on to all of that with our clients?
That actually is so nicely said, Deanna. You're exactly right. We from the first day that our students arrive, we talk with them about what's the difference between a therapeutic relationship and all of the other types of relationships that people have, friendships, spousal, family, etc. This is a different one. And I think part of the training that our students are getting, maybe not intentionally, is that all of the issues that we are seeing out in the world are at Chatham as well. And so our students are bringing their struggles with institutional racism and the climate crisis and the healthcare disparities. All of those things are coming into our classrooms, for better and for worse. We are wrestling with those things, and it sometimes gets messy. But our students, I think, are going to be prepared to be able to navigate those waters in their practice.
I think the other solution, Murray, is more that one of the core kind of liberal arts skills in the 21st century is how to be an informed consumer of digital information. So helping students to understand, not all sources are created equal on the internet, and how to trace where information actually came from and ask hard critical questions when looking at things, not addressing the psychological aspect, but more just the, how to determine what are facts and where they're coming from.
Well, that would keep them from becoming
right. It doesn't get them out.
We got to fish these people back out of their morass. And that's a very tough issue, but it needs addressed.
So I know we're getting close to the end of our time. Mary Jo, Deanna, thank you so much. Really appreciate you doing the presentation. And David, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add my thanks to Mary Jo and Deanna and Pat for doing a great job with moderating, for university advancement, for organizing this series. And I just wanted to invite everybody to the next part of this series. We're going to be skipping April because we have our Day of Giving in April, and we're hoping you will all participate then and join us for a wide range of activities then. But in May, on the 27th, a Thursday, we'll have Dr. Rob Latan, who is the chair of our science department, himself a chemist who is doing some really interesting work and identifying potential new drugs. But Rob will be sharing on the creation of our new neuroscience undergraduate program, which we just started in this past year. We have some great new faculty in that area. So really one of the most exciting growth areas of science as a whole, and a great new addition to Chatham and our strong science program. So I hope you'll join us to hear from him, and I'm sure an equally engaging discussion as we had today. So thank you all so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you.